Hello and welcome back to Seaside Garage. I still have an issue starting this when it's cold. Once I get it running, it's no problem. In a previous video, I took apart the K-Jet system and cleaned it up, and it's still working, which is surprising me at least. Anyway, what I want to do today is to find out why it is this difficult to start. When I started, I have to take off the rubber telephone that fits on top of the K-Jet unit and lift up the plate slightly. That way I will squirt some fuel manually down into the cylinder, and then it fires up and runs perfectly. Well, not perfectly, but it runs. So I'm pretty sure that I'm having an issue either with some fuel pressure or with the cold starting system. So this engine is a bit interesting, and it took me a while to read up on all the different systems. It is a mechanical injection system, and it's pretty interesting. But this is the K-Jet over here that delivers fuel to the cylinders. It also has a cold start valve right here. This is supposed to fire up when you turn the engine over when the engine is cold, and it knows that because it gets a signal from the temperature sensor. Also, there is the warm-up regulator. This controls fuel pressure when the engine heats up. The lower the fuel pressure is in the system, the more fuel it delivers. It's a bit opposite than what you might expect, or at least what I expected. But the lower the pressure is, the more fuel it will put in. What I'm going to test now is to find out, because it will make sense if the cold start valve is just not working. So I would like to see if it works and if it gets power and all that. So let's find out by taking off the plug. And we've got two wires. The brown one should be power. The green one should be ground. So with the engine cold, I should see power at the green one. If I connect this one up to the green one and the other one to the positive terminal, I'm just going to put power on like that and then fit it. Let's see. We got 12 volts at the ground connector. So that's good. Next up, let's check the other one, because this one is supposed to give the positive feed, but only when cranking the engine. So let's try to see when I crank this engine if we get some power. Nothing came. You might wonder why the engine turns over this quickly. It's because there are no spark plugs in at the moment. So there is a wire, the brown wire, the other side of the power feed for this connector comes from down under here, from the starter. So it's supposed to give power when the starter is engaged. Oh yeah, and another really weird thing that I actually forgot to show you was that down here we have the temperature switch. Up here we have the auxiliary air thingy. There's no connectors on it right now. That is because this one that is on the temperature sensor was fitted up here. According to my manual, that's wrong, because we have a green and a yellow wire, and that is supposed to be on the temperature switch. Without that in place, we don't get the ground to the cold valve. It seems to be wired wrong, because now this one cannot really reach it. I think it's because the loom was supposed to go up here. I'll have to do some investigating on that. And again, as you can see, I'm not going to mess a lot with it because it is extremely brittle. So right now the aux air valve will be disconnected, which is not going to be nice, but we'll see. Otherwise I will have to do something, but it seems to have been wired up wrong. Okay, so there is absolutely no signal coming from the starter. There is a wire going to the starter and another wire coming from the ignition, of course, that activates the bridge down there. It's actually the starter relay, I think it's called. So when power comes from the ignition, it will bridge that port, and the big wire will go into the starter and make starting happen. On the other side of that, there is a little prong that is supposed, as far as I know, to be energized while I crank it, and thereby activating the cold start valve if the engine is cold enough, because, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that the temperature sensor is controlling the ground for the cold start mechanism so it will not give it any ground if it's too warm. It is impossible to get to, no, it's not impossible. No, it's not impossible, but it's really difficult to get to the starter without taking a lot of parts. Sorry for that. Without taking a lot of parts off, because of the fact of the pretty weird design of this engine. The starter motor is down there, facing the front. I can have a hard time even touching those wires down there, so taking the starter out would be really difficult. Of course it's possible, but the best thing would be to take out the injection system, maybe even the manifold. And I'm going to do that at some point because there are so many wires that needs to be changed. Also, there is stuff down there that needs to be checked over. So when I get to that stage, I'm going to take that off, and then I'm going to repair that starter or replace it if it's not possible to fix that. I think it's something quite small inside of that, some connection that is not clean enough or something like that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wire up a remote cold start valve activator. And this is just to make it easier to start, because before I had to take all the rubber things off to get to the air meter to activate it. Now I will just have to press a button in the engine bay, which is not going to be a big problem, because each and every time I pick it up I will have to fit a battery, so that will be okay. I have taken some wires and put some different kind of connections on, and I found this little button which I'm gonna wire up like this and like this. Then I'm gonna take this end and put into the brown wire coming from the starter. Yeah, I'm gonna take it off down at the starter and then fit this one instead. Then this end is going on the positive terminal of the battery. So now with this wire, I can put the car into ignition. It is in ignition now. Then I can press this little button and get the cold valve. And it's really having a nice spray pattern, by the way, spray. So that makes it possible to start it if the engine is really cold, without the big hassle of taking all the rubbers off to lift this one up. It will make it easier to move it in and out of the garage, but of course this is just a temporary fix. But now I know what the problem is. I'm pretty sure that is the problem. And then there's a lot of other stuff that needs to be sorted out and fixed. And there are so many vacuum leaks on this engine. It's unbelievable, because there's so much stuff not connected. So it's going to be exciting. But now I can start this engine, I'm pretty sure of, without any problems, and move it in and out of my garage when I want to work on it. That is the goal for today. I'm gonna fit everything back on and then hopefully fire it up using this method. Yeah, I'm gonna fit the spark plugs and all that, and then we're gonna try. So let's test to see if it works. Let's try to turn the key. Oh yeah, it is trying to start. Normally it doesn't do that, but I think because I have squirted so much fuel into there while testing all the thingies, I think it could end up maybe firing up, but let's try again. So it's almost there, but let's just try that button. Push it for a couple of seconds with the ignition on. And then I expect it to just fire up and run. Like that, much better, much better. So this is not a repair. This is just to make it easier to move once again, because the priority on this car is rust work. I need to fix the rust before I start working on the engine. I had hoped to fix this the right way and not make a clever anti-theft device, to be honest, but it's not the right way. But to fix it right, I would have to get the starter out to take a look at that and maybe change it. To do that, it would be best to take the manifold off. And if I do that, it would be wise to check all the wiring, change all those brittle wires and the vacuum hoses and all that. And I would need a new manifold gasket and much more other stuff that I don't have at the moment. So this is just good enough to make it possible to move it easy. So yeah, that's nice. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one. It's pretty meaty. That exhaust needs to be checked. Oh, no brakes. Forgot about that.